Good morning. My name is Hakeem Weatherspoon, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Exotanium. We make containers fast and secure. Quite a bit different topic than the last one, but we'll see what that is. What are containers? Remember the days when we used to install software using CDs? You used to use a CD. You would buy a CD. For the companies that actually produced that software, it actually wasn't such a great time. They would develop the software in the lab. They would then deploy it to the enterprise, and then they would pray that it would work. If you think about all the different various platforms out there, from Windows, for example, they change over time, and they actually break over time. So this was a headache. Cloud-native application containers have all but solved this problem. They allow you to actually contain the entire environment of the application together within one abstraction, so that when you develop your application in the lab, you actually take that same exact environment and you deploy it to the field, to the cloud, to the enterprise. This is what you call DevOps, development operations. You literally develop it one time and you just run it everywhere. This has been so easy that starting in 2013, this was introduced by Docker, and by 2017, 20% of all businesses that use the cloud now use containers. In fact, by 2020, 50% of all businesses will use containers. The revenue is growing at a dramatic pace, so at 40% a year is a compound annual growth rate, and by 2020, it'll be at $2.7 billion. The top concern for people who use application containers in the cloud is security. Unfortunately, containers were designed with ease of deployment in mind, not with security. As a result, you have to take that container and wrap it in another layer of protection called a virtual machine. When you do that, that actually slows down performance up to 800 times, 8x. In order to compensate for that slowdown, you have to then increase your expense to buy more containers, more virtual machines, more expense into the cloud. We have solved this problem with Exotanium. With Exotanium X containers, containers are more secure, they're faster, and they're very cost efficient. We have a novel container architecture that has a provisional patent from Cornell. It improves the security by reducing that attack surface by 90%. At the same time that we increase security, we actually increase performance as well instead of a slowdown. We increase performance up to 5x of what your application was before using prior solutions. And at the same time of that, we actually reduce overheads, reducing costs, providing that better security and performance and costs. As an intuition of what actually is the underlying technology, we call it Exotanium because of that hard outer shell. So that container still provides that security that the virtual machine provides that I talked about before. But internally, everything is for that one application. So we actually remove obsolete barriers that gives us that performance boost. If you actually do the math, it's up to 40 times faster than the slowest performance of a virtual machine that I talked about before. So this is a very dramatic increase in performance. At the same time, it's 100% compatible with popular container platforms. It's literally a drop-in replacement, so no change whatsoever. Who are the customers? The customers are your large cloud providers, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Huawei. We're actually working with one of these customers right now, doing some trials, receiving feedback, who are actively engaged and interested in Exotanium X containers. Another set of customers are those who actually use the cloud to deploy their applications, such as Autodesk and OpenLink Financial. They need security and performance at a cost-effective price as well. Our team then is Professor Robert Ramranese on the left, Dr. Ziming Shen on the right, and myself. Robert and I are both professors in computer science here at Cornell, and this Exotanium is based off of Ziming's PhD thesis. The next steps are we are expanding our team. We have submitted for a SBIR, and we're working to productize the prototype that we have created. If you're interested in Exotanium, and financing that, please contact us at info@exotanium.io. Thank you.
My question would be, have you taken a look at the overall size from a dollar standpoint of the market that you're trying to reach?
Yes, we have looked at the overall size. I had a backup slide, but the size for the containers was about 2.7 billion, like I said before. Of those where security is a top concern, it's 54% of those that are actually wrapping the extra layer of protection at virtual machine. So it's about half of that 2.5 billion. Of that, that's part of a cloud enabling technologies market, which is 40 billion, which is part of the public cloud, which is 160 billion. So the market that we're going after is about 1.5 billion right now and growing at 40% a year. And those are all the potential customers.
Hi. What kind of testing do you have to do? And in particular, what kind of testing do your prospective customers really demand of you?
Thank you. So after, and as we're engaging with some of these large cloud providers, I wasn't able to say exactly which one due to confidentiality, but that was one of the big feedback was it has to be a drop-in replacement. If they have to change their process, it would be too difficult. And so based on that feedback, we actually have gone in and ensured that our Exotanium X containers can just be used interchangeably with the top platforms today.
Are there any tests that you need to do in order to demonstrate, the security, the lower overhead, the other benefits of your?
Yeah, so we have benchmarks for the performance. We're able to show, in some cases, 2 orders of magnitude, 27x. On some other benchmarks, it's 2 to 5x better performance. That means that your workload actually finishes 2 to 5 times faster. For security, it's looking at the ways that I can attack your application. And so when you look at the operating system, Linux, there are hundreds of vulnerabilities a year that have been exploited. We actually use a different interface. So we actually don't use the operating system interface. We use something lower that has an order of magnitude less vulnerabilities. And so that's where we get the extra security from.
So and what,
sorry, go ahead.
What prevents someone like Amazon from developing similar technologies?
Yeah, a couple things. Number one, Amazon and Google and Microsoft, they all are very interested in containers. They all have some type of container storing. They're using Docker as the leader right now. So we are able to be used interchangeably with Docker. And the key here is our technique, our approach. Theoretically is superior. So they are actually interested in our approach right now, which is why they're discussing with us. And for them to explore using a company like us is a little bit easier. So the answer is we're hopeful that they are interested, and they have shown that they are interested. And acquiring something like this would be fairly easy for one of them.
So it's more of a buy versus build.
Right.
So you talked a lot about security, and is that how you differentiate yourself against competitors like Red Hat, who acquired CoreOS, or Google and Docker? What are the other kind of key differentiators you guys push on?
Yeah, so the security and the performance are the two keys. The security is because it's really a different approach. So when you talk about CoreOS and Docker, the host is that underlying operating system. That attack surface is why there's hundreds of interfaces that I could use to exploit. Our interface is actually the underlying machine, of which there's an order of magnitude less interfaces. And then the operating system itself, we make part of the application. It's an approach called a library OS. So we make Linux a library, which turns the expensive system calls into function calls, which reduces their cost by order of magnitude.
Very cool.
And then from a monetization standpoint, how do you think about, given your business model, how that would work? Would it be more subscription-based, usage-based, license-based? Just kind of curious about that.
I missed that second word. Can you repeat that one?
Sorry, the monetization.
Yeah, so we are looking at a couple different methods. Subscription-based, so Docker and Red Hat have a subscription base, and we would use that as well. Also, consultation. We were saying that you can use our technology interchangeably. However, once you start to optimize your application, you would need some consultation for that. We allow for some optimizations that the others don't allow for. And so that's part of our revenue model as well. And then also support and people just downloading it as well.
But thank you, and thank you, Hakeem. That was excellent.
Thank you.